Alright chaps, right, well we're going to do a little bit of honing, but we're going to do a little bit of finishing honing with this tiny little Thuringian. So this is one of them little tiny razor hones. I've had lots and lots of these over the years. They've always provide good edges. I've never had a bad one. I've had soft ones, I've had hard ones, I've had green ones, blues, blacks, greys, you name it. They're great, but for me they're just too small for what I need to use. But whenever I see one kind of cheap to me is sort of 20-30 quid. I always like getting them. I do my razor tests on them and then I sell them on. I put 20 quid on them and sell them 50 quid, something like that, and they're good to go, and it means somebody can get honing, finishing, learning, muscle memory, looking after their razors and whatnot, and they know they bought something that works, or at least it did work for me, so it can work for them. I believe I took this up to a 1200. We'll have a little look. I ain't had a look at it yet. Oh yeah, this is a gold dollar as well. This is from one of my razor friends. Cheers dude for letting me keep it for a while. I've never had a gold dollar. I wouldn't say I'm anti gold dollars, but I'm not a fan of anything made cheaply. Let's put it that way. There's plenty of vintage razors out there for everybody to get practicing on. Right, let's have a little look. This come to me, it was a bit tuggy, but the fella who got it honed in the UK by somebody said he did have some good shades off of it and that, so I'm not knocking whoever had it before. There was some quite big serrations on it. Let's have a look. There was some quite big serrations on when I had on it, but they didn't really quite lead to the edge. So I don't know what they did. I think they those little black bits and that's just fluff from my. But you can see, I'm not too sure I did take this up to a 1200 actually. I think I might have only took this up to an 8 because, in fact, I'm near sure that's only up to an 8. But anyway, it don't matter. I'm gonna shave test this razor. I've never shaved with gold dollar, and I'm not knocking them because if you're good at honing and the geometry's been sorted on them and whatnot, they shave well. From everything I know about them. I mean, whoever had this before me, they've added quite a bit of homeware because this was new to the fella that bought it, from the person that honed it, I believe, and they've added quite a bit of homeware to it. And I think that was like just sorting out the razor basically. There's a bit of a running joke with gold dollars. You've got to buy 10 to get 2 decent ones. But anyway, let's have a little look at it. Right, so yeah, we've got my Thuringian. I've got my Magiro. I'm going to use my Magiro today and not my Coma, whatever it's called. Because I've only run 2 razors through that now, so I'm not totally sure on the Comas. But my Magiro I'm pretty sound with. This week I drove 4.5 hours to go and get some razors. It was 22 razors. It was like a blind auction, not eBay or anything, auction house lot that I bought. Like I couldn't really see any of the razors. I couldn't see any of the blades, the bevels or anything. There's 22 razors, and 22 razors were out of chip. Well, when I say a chip, I mean a visible chip. Like there is some tiny microchips when you're running out on it. So I was pretty pleased with it, man. There's quite some, I don't know, 6 or 7 razors in it, let's say, that are worthy to go through my stones and that. But what I got in there was this, and I've never had one of these. I've had different ones of these. I think I've had a Swatty. Well, I know I had a Swatty. I've had a couple of different Carbodium. Excuse me. Yeah, I know I've had a couple of their products, but I'm near sure I've not had one of them. But then I say that, and it was years ago that I had them. And last night I flattened it. There's a tiny bit there that didn't get flattened, but I'm not bothered by that because I'd only practice my little V's on it anyway. So I'm excited to give that a little burn as well. So if anybody's after, I've rounded the edges, both sides, very slightly, beveled them, you could call it. So if anybody's after another hone, just contact me, man, and we'll sort out something cheap because I just got that in a razor lot. It come with this little tiny compliments of Carbonium core Carborundium. Sorry, I've got dyslexia, so sorry for my pronunciations to anybody I might offend. And I thought I flattened it, but I didn't quite. There's a little tiny bit there. Not that it mattered to a little razor, because you just literally have to go like that. But I believe, because this was all one gentleman's lot, not this, but the 22 razors I bought this week. It was a gentleman's lot who's passed. It was his wife selling his gear, and he had this in there and that in there, and I reckon he was setting his bevels on this, or at least that's what he was attempting and stuff, because you could see all like razor marks on it. Because to me that feels like that'd take metal off. That does. Not like a tremendous amount, I must say. Quite a friendly amount. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test that, make sure it's not microchipping the edge. And if it's not microchipping the edge, like I've mentioned before, I class that as razor safe. And obviously I'll do the same with this. But this is classed as a finisher, I know it is, because I put study into these years ago. The one problem with these, supposedly, is over the years, some of them can almost start delaminating, because these are effectively a crushed kind of stone that's been graded and then mixed with a binder. And the binder, I did put study in it a couple of years, but I don't know anymore. Can't remember. And then they can make, what's it called, a homogeneous. No, that's wrong anyway. But what it means is it's a one solid object. But yeah, I'll check it. We'll see. Right, back onto this. What I'll do is I'll add some photos of the ones that are this week that I've got into this video, just because people get a bit curious, don't they? Right, I believe this Thuringian has had a little tiny bit of oil put in it at some point, because it's, it's acting like it has to me, but it don't matter. Whatever oil they've used on it, I believe it was possibly like a mineral oil, because it's not, it don't smell like oil or anything, if you know what I mean. Definitely ain't diesel, definitely ain't like an engine oil that some people do use on the old oil stones. Like I said, I've beveled the edges. It's very important on these little stones. There's my little, there it is. Still got the old, it's very important. It's tiny actually, it's a tiny little nick there. It's very important when you get these little stones that you just take the edges off of them. Because if there's one problem with these stones, especially to somebody that's a bit, well, let's just say a little bit less experienced. Yes, it's on the side now. So when you're running your razors on it, if you tilt it at all, you know what I mean, if it's got any form of sharp edge, you will damage your razor. Not beyond, fixing or anything, it'll just set you back. It'll cost you an hour or two, let's put it that way. So it's just really wise to, all of these little stones that I ever do send out, I've already done all that stuff, because I do it before I personally test it myself. Let's put that back, because otherwise my little holder don't work. So, how do you use these? Well, I like using them in a holder, but that's because I'm used to using them in a holder. But you very much can just pick them up in your hand, start running laps on them. You have to be careful of your thumb a bit. Like I've got quite, I've not got big hands, but I've got quite chunky hands. I think you could describe it like bit of builder. So you have to be a bit take a bit of a bloody thumb palm off, if that's what it's called. But you very much can, all day long. It's quite nice actually, quite like it. I did do quite a few bits of this. Well, spent a bit of time doing this many moon ago. I would say, I'm quite experienced, and I would say slow down a little bit if you're going to use something this narrow, because it's all to do with that tipping action. I would say you have to focus on your pressure, meaning just no pressure really. Just let the razor, the scales create, like a natural sort of tilting action. Just allow the weight of the scales and whatnot, and just try and imagine you're going like that, because that's what you are really doing. But on these little stones, like I said, I like to keep it in the holder, just because it takes one of the variables out of it, and the variable is, you know, you have a little and it tilts it basically. Right, we're going to use this little Majuro. Oh dear, it's a bit big for the old stone, isn't it? The base stone. So because it is a bit big, be a bit careful, because you could very much over time round the edges off in a manner that weren't good. But let's get a little bit of slurry going. Just a little bit of a haze, I reckon, today. See, what I like doing with these is just little V's. Little V's, kind of climbing up and down the stone. You know, you pay for a stone, use all your stone. You know, in whatever, you know, motion of your laps you're doing, you're paying for your stone, use all the bloody thing. You know, if you just stay there, just stay there, well, you're wasting money in a way. Climb up and down. If you see that, you kind of get little increments going on from your climbing, and they should all get a bit kind of similar. The reason I don't advocate starting with these stones, because if you want to, you know, if you want to spend the bloody money, spend the money. You know, like, as soon as I could afford to get bigger natural stones, you know, I was on synthetics for a long time. But they're just a good way to get shaving, they really are. You know, I always say, if you're going to buy a razor, it's not really your razor until you can really look after it. Oh, so yeah, what I was going to say is, the reason I like these as well, as like a starting kind of home, I almost think they thought of this, like, is, see how that's changed colour by the way as well, it's gone more grey. I don't know if you see it in this bloody light, it's so grey today. The reason why these are so good as well is because they concentrate the mind. So, you know, if I, you know, that long, that wide, well, I can be a bit more laxy-daisy with it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, I can be a bit more whatever's. But because it's so narrow, you really have to try and concentrate more. So what it does is it sets you up for future practice. You know, good practice. You know, you're already really focused on the things that you should always be doing when honing. That's what I think anyway. It's only my opinion. Don't be part of the butter up parade. See that changed colour? It really has. It's gone quite a bit grey. If anybody fancies selling me a German hone, one that they've tested and knows razor's safe, hit me up. It's my last stone. I'm not clucking, well I am actually, but they're not for sale much where I live basically. And it is the last stone. I can swap your razors, I can swap your stones, I can, you know, we can do the old swapsies no end. But if you fancy helping out another razor man, I'd be very grateful. I was in the bidding for one last week. Gee whiz, just silly money. It's only a bloody stone. It's not like they're really like massively special really either. It's the user, not the stone. The stone just helps. Right, let's have a little look though. I'm just interested to see what it's doing. Turn the old gubbins back on. Alright, so yeah. See, my experience. Let's have a little look. There we go. So my experience with Thuringians, German hones, is they take quite a bit longer than most of my JNAT experience and cottacle experience. I'm not that really experienced with cottacles. But as you can see, on the whole, I would class that as razor safe. You know, I could zoom in a little bit more. This razor is definitely lacking contact on the heel. And a little bit on the toe there, if you see. See the way, let's see if I can get my finger in. Well, I can't really, but see the way there's that like transitional line. So I don't quite know what the other honer was doing on this razor. It's a bit strange, but yeah, it's a bit lacking on the heel and the toe, and it was like that when I got it. You know, we've had a little play with it. Got a lovely little silky feel to this stone though. It's just very important you don't tip the razor. And that's why it teaches you to not tip, you see. Because it's the same when you use a big razor. Oh, don't get me wrong, there's times when you need to tip a razor. If you're trying to hit part of the heel that's being a bit of a problem area. I think we just work this now to damn near slurry. Like I said, I've had hard Thuringians, I've had really soft one. I had a little one of these that was really soft, and when I mean really soft, my little diamond plate, because that's what I use as my little gauge, that is, of how soft a stone is. It chewed it up. Like, it didn't scratch it or anything, but it chewed it up. It really created like quite a thick slurry with, well, not many laps of the diamond plate on it. In my head I was thinking, bloody hell, that's just way too soft. But I tell you what, it was a lovely stone, that was. It was really nice to shave off. Hello, back again. Yeah, I got fully disturbed. I didn't realise the time. We're a day adrift now. The girls come home, disturb my peace. You don't want all them going off in the background, that's for sure. Right, what we're going to do is, we're going to do another round with a bit of slurry. Just quite a light mist this time. Well, it was quite a light mist last time anyway, but just get a little bit of something. And we'll give it another whirl. We'll go to clear and then we'll have a look. But it's got to be somewhere kind of near. Move that out of the way. Use it in its stand still. It's lacking a little bit on the heel. And a little bit on the toe. But it started getting it a bit more on the toe, I think. It probably does, if I'm being picky, it probably does need a bit more corrective work done on it really, but maybe needs going down to 2000 for a number of laps. But we'll see. It certainly can't be too far out because I ain't done too much to it other than try and get out some of the quite heavy scratches that I could see on it. So we've definitely improved the bevel a bit. What you can feel is when you do it like this, I'll try and do it again, just to demonstrate. Excuse me, I've had a... So it gets to there and then it really wants to release on that side. Didn't do it that time, but it does it most times. Exactly the same spot. So what that means is, or at least what it means to me, is that that part of the bevel is kind of struggling to really hit, and you can see it with the slurry as well if you look at it. But it is getting less though, I must say. Like, it did it quite a bit then. See if I can get it to do that. There you go. If I put any more pressure than light pressure on it, it don't do it as much. There you go. It's definitely doing it nearly every time. Nice little silky stone though. You can just use a DNT plate. Use one of these little DNT plates to raise its own slurry. We'll do that in a minute actually. Everything I've read about Thuries is they love their own slurry. That's why they'll like the Barber's Gem, like one of the most prized, kind of sought after German variant hone, is it comes with its own cut off, which I imagine is from the same stone. They cut it to a size and then cut the clonker off, because they are normally a bit of a clonker. Right, I've got quite a good flow with that as well, nice. Just wetting it down a bit, let's get rid of some of this slurry and then we'll give it a go with its own slurry. See how that feels. Oh, that cold's galore we've had in this house last couple of weeks. Hopefully just in time for Christmas though, if you know what I mean. Get them out of the way. Fingers crossed. Yeah, still releasing most times that and not. Where's that toe? No time at all. It's quite a, well, I wouldn't say it's a soft Thury because I've had a lot of German hones that are probably softer than that, but it's definitely what I'd say a bit on the softer side. They're not known to be like spectacularly hard as much as I can understand from reading. And I don't think I've ever had a little one that I would class as like really hard. One of the green, I can remember one of the green ones I had was really, really soft. Yeah, it does taste, change the feel of it. It's a bit more, well, do you know what, it feels a bit more clayey and nice. See if I can torque it a little bit towards the toe. It does extend where it wants to release. Yeah, it does. Change colour ever so slightly as well. I like its own slurry. What started off quite white, it's gone quite grey quick. Got a very particular smell as well, Thuringians, German hones. Got quite a cute smell, and I can smell the difference in the stones. The German hones have got their own smell. That's releasing less on this slurry mix. Releasing less on the toe. Less regular for sure. Let's work the slurry down now. We'll get it to clear and then we'll do some nice little short relapse to excuse me. Not very pleasant. My daughter's had a right old hacky cough at night. She come down a couple of nights ago, oh, I can't sleep, keep coughing. It's when she lays down flat. Oh, there's still a bit of slurry there, isn't there? Bit of something. Yeah, it's biting now. Tickly. Yeah, it feels like it wants to release a bit more now on that end. into a nice little rhythm with the V-laps. Nice little short ones. When I say short, I mean that when I go like, you know, like do like my X kind of stroke, I'm not going too far up the stone at all. You know, if like, so we're moving about from the inside of my fingers, somewhere around that, innit? About an inch, bit over maybe, 25, 20, 30 mil. And I believe it helps just get rid of the, like the wiry edge, micro burr, whatever you really want to call it. I've never had too much troubles with wiry edges. I have had the odd razor that's been quite prone to it. There's various ways you can try and help it along, but one of them's just doing really like even shorter than these, so you know, like that. Or some people say like when you've got a nice wide stone, you just give it a bit of that either side, just a couple of mil. It's not something I try because I don't get many sort of, well, razors that I could be confident enough on doing that little movement and hitting the whole like length of it. I have actually had a couple of razors that come in that have been really fat. Oh, and I did shave with a lovely razor on Saturday, so that's a couple of days ago. I shaved with that Geo Wilson Tone Peerless, and that is a lovely razor, man. That's like, that's ousted 3 of my Sheffield razors. That is, I had a Napoleon, a rag, that was, what's the other one, an Oscar, and a C. Myers. That's ousted all 3 of those because it's quite similar. It's grind and everything, and just a lot prettier. And Geo's one of my favourite mates, Home. So I thought, well, what's the point keeping 4 razors that are nearly all the same? There ain't none in my eyes, unless there's some kind of sentimental value. Right, let's have a little look under the scope. Let's warm the optics up. Don't think I have to do that with this little microscope, but let's have a look. Let's try and get it set up. Get it somewhere there. Let's just get the little, so we'll know where we're at. It's recording. We need to find some decent focus. We do. Yeah, so it's still not hitting it too much right at that very heel bit there, but you can see it starts hitting it straight away. It's definitely not like chipping the edge, this setup. You know, it's not one of my best edges. You know, whether that's to do with the steel, I don't know. And again, it's not quite hitting it just there. It has hit it a bit. I can see where it's like, yeah, it's fully hitting it there. So there's definitely a bit down on this heel that's a bit lacking. Like I said, I think it does need to go down to a 2000 for a bit. But I'll shave with it, see if it shaves well, and send it back to the chap if he wants it back. Yeah, well, I definitely think it's at least razor safe. So I tried it with my Duro that I know is pretty sound. On everything I've tried that on, it's always been pretty good. And that's definitely not, it's definitely not damaging the razor, that is for sure. And that's always your first port of call, I find, when you're testing an actual stone like you want to use on a razor. Is it razor safe? Remember, razor safe means it's not consistently micro chipping the edge. Like, don't get me wrong, every now and then you'll go into a different sort of strata layer and you might have a little inclusion or something that damages your razor, so then you know you've got to flatten it, you know, grind it past that, and you can go again as long as it's not going that way into the stone. But yeah, we're going to put it on the strop and see if we can get it popping. See how we go. Right, well, I might set the camera up to do the stropping as well. We'll see. Cheers. Hello. Just going to strop this gold dollar now. I'm going to use this. I have started prepping this today. I did a little video on this as well, but it's not ready. It needs to dry overnight, and then it should be ready to kind of run a few more razors on. So I'm going to use this super fast horse strop. Really is, well, it's the fastest strop I've ever had. It's like grease lightning. It's got some really pretty patterns in it. Pretty strop. It could probably do with a little tiny bit of a refresh. If you notice on this side, they've started to get a little bit of sort of like dark marks and that from the metal. And this side, well, I nicked it down there months and months ago. Not bothered at all because it don't matter. But there's a little curly bit that's flipped up on the edge there. Don't know. Just feel like it needs a little tiny bit of a reconditioning. I must have had this over it's over a year, that's for sure. But it's had a lot of razors run on it. It really has. Right, gold dollar. Just sort of finished it. I thought I took it up to a 12,000, but when I looked under the scope, I reckon it was more an 8. So I was meant to run it on my 12, but hey, it was the only one I had, even half ready. So I don't find it makes, well, a tremendous difference. It's probably not the best edge in the entire world, if I'm going to be brutally honest. Been lacking on the heel and the toe a bit. But the chap who's lent me it, give it a good go on the linen. It's quite a smooth, well, real sort of like tight weave linen, that is. Really thin. It's a lovely strop to use, really is. Adjust your fingers every now and then. You can feel them going out of cock. I always just sort of default it onto the spine. Whenever I feel anything a bit funky, I always seem to, well, I say always, you know, still not impossible to nick a strop even after a very many number of years. Can still happen. Right, let's at least have a little feel of it. I'll have to look through my other videos to try and figure out where it was half decent when I got it. I think it was, well, from memory I thought it was the heel, but it was the toe that was a bit out. I'm not sure whether I've got one of my daughter's there. Yeah, it's popping there. Yeah. It's not perfect. It is what I'd say worthy of kind of giving it a whirl. Don't think that's the best hair really. I think that might be one of Freya's because it's a bit curly. My wife's hair's pretty straight, whereas Freya, it's got my hair, a bit of wave to it. Right there, that's definitely my wife's hair. How do I know? Wiry. Yeah, so it is still lacking a tiny bit on the heel. Yeah, a tiny bit there as well. It's not perfect. What I'll do is I'll give it a bit more stropping. I think it'll benefit from a bit more stropping. Yes, it is going there, but then not, and then it is, and then not. Yeah. See, it's popping a little bit there and all now. Yeah, and there. So, it's probably a little bit better than what I think I've got blurred vision a little bit. Chinese razor, I think I've got a bit of blurred vision. Right, well, I'm going to bore you with this because I'm just going to strop it for another couple of minutes. But I think that's kind of set fair, and we'll give it a whirl. We've tested the little German hone, haven't we? And I showed you like how, at least how I do my little V-laps on it, and what I do towards the end of, well, the end of the stone a little bit, shorter V-laps and whatnot. Alright, toodaloo. Hi, me again. I just thought I'd show you quickly actually, look. So, where are we? Few more minutes, quite literally sort of a couple of minutes, and she's popping all the way along now. It just goes to prove that sometimes you could just have a little more perseverance on the strops and it sorts the little sort of nuances out. Toodaloo.